Welcome to the PortX Monthly Report. My name is Steve O'Neill, and I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Adam Cunningham. And we're here to talk a little bit about what is going on in the wild, wild west of LA.
It's not good.
It's not a good situation.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
It's not a good situation. COVID has created monstrous amounts of imports coming in. Shortages on chassis, shortages on outbound trucking equipment, shortages of capacity in warehouses. But the good news is we've all been through this before. Not quite to the extreme with COVID and having to reduce your capacity in your warehouses, but we've been through it with ILWU strikes. Namely, 2012, we had one, lasted 8 days. Lots of vessels just parked
out there in the sea.
Just
nothing to do.
Nothing to do.
Just hanging out.
Just sitting around. And then
nobody offload me.
No,
just hanging.
Just sitting there. So that was a recent ILWU issue. But in 2002, 10 days, they had vessels moored in the sea. And now at that time, we had warehouses fully staffed with folks.
Yeah.
And we ran into the same issues of chassis, truck capacity issues, returning of empties issues. So we've been through all of this before.
Yeah.
It is just a new name this time around called COVID-19.
Speaking of which, stay a little bit further away from you.
Yeah, please.
There we go. Now we're all set. No, but I mean, with COVID, we've had a significant, I don't want to say significant, but some of our drivers have come down or contracted COVID-19.
Yes.
And that has put a tremendous amount of pressure on the existing drivers. Yes. I'd like to go back to what you brought up, or maybe you didn't, the Hanjin crisis.
I haven't yet, but go ahead.
We're going to lead back into the Hanjin crisis. Yes. The terrible curse of the blue boxes.
Blue box curse.
Blue box curse, that's right.
Absolutely atrocious. Yep. You lived hot and heavy through that. You battled hundreds of containers your clients had you moving around.
Sure. I think what the worst I felt for clients that had containers stranded at sea.
Oh yeah.
Nothing to do, nowhere to go. No one particularly wanted Hanjin containers.
Hands off.
The rail said, once they got into port, the rail said, well, we are not moving them. See you later. So that caused a backlog of containers at the port, and then the port said, well, you better get these out of here. We don't want them here. So you've got containers coming out of the port, and you have warehouses, rail yard, CYs, full with container on chassis.
Yep.
You want to create a chassis storage? Pull thousands of containers from the port, put them in the community without a day in the distant future of being unloaded.
Yes.
So that's how you create a chassis storage. A chassis shortage.
Yes. That was an absolute mess. That chassis shortage, in my opinion, actually rivals what we have going on right now. Because at least now, in time, containers are getting offloaded, and once the terminal appointments are made, getting back. But in your case with Hanjin, nobody would touch the container because if they emptied it, they had nowhere
Or
to
do you
take
take
the
it
container.
back? No, it took months for Hanjin to actually say, "Oh, okay, you can bring them back here, or you can bring them back there." So they sat idle for quite some time.
It was tough.
You bring up a great point. So we've got the chassis shortage going on currently in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Even the port will tell you that the turn times are anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. And again, don't quote me. I am not Piers, I am not JOC, but I've done a fair amount of reading, and it says turn times anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. What that doesn't take into account is the driver's time just to get into the terminal. So a driver could wait in line 3-4 hours just to get into the terminal. I could be slightly exaggerating, but still, let's say 1 or 2 hours. He gets to the gate and he's got to go pull off and get a chassis. No chassis available. He just wasted his whole time. So it's very common for customers to get frustrated at the current climate, Los Angeles, because really it's out of their hands. And what we have tried to do is come up with concrete solutions to alleviate the chassis shortage issue.
Yeah.
So what Port X has done is onboard more chassis.
Yes.
And the type of chassis is actually really critical. For instance, what we've attempted to bring into our fleet are 2040 sliders.
Yeah.
So the slider chassis
Very universal.
allow you to drop off a 40
Yep.
and then pick up a 20
Yep.
or vice versa. So I think having that option is very helpful.
The
for our
flexibility is
customers.
phenomenal. It's really, really good. We've talked a lot about chassis shortages,
Yeah.
right? So the next kind of big thing is I've got here terminal appointments. Because what I'm finding with the returns is this, and I'm living through it with SureFit right now,
Yes.
where containers are outdated for 20 days.
Yes.
But what's happening is they've got so many containers that are empty that
Yes.
they can't get pickup appointments for. They just get buried to the back of the yard.
Yes.
And that's why they're there, because it's like, well, I'm not going to dig 5 deep to get to that one when this one's here, so I'll take that one back and clear the front. But
Yeah.
then the guys that are in the back, they get buried by the end of the day, and that's what keeps happening.
And the Harbor Trucking Association
Mhm.
of Southern California is actually requesting that the port and the steamship lines do a bit more data sharing,
Oh yeah.
so that in advance, not the day of, but in advance, we, the trucking company, will know exactly where they're going to accept empties. Because as it is right now, our dispatchers are telling me that they don't find out until the day of that they're taking NYK boxes over at Houston, or finally WBCT is now taking half bag boxes.
Right.
So you've got this smattering of steamship lines allowing their containers to be returned to certain ports. And if we could, or if they could be a little bit more proactive in that, it would allow us to plan much better and be more effective, and I think proactive when it comes to returning boxes and getting them off our yard. Like you mentioned, you've got that, we have that significant buildup in the yard.
It just gets built up every single day. More empties get in front of the older empties. And you've got to dig through to get to the other ones, and that's why boxes are out 10, 20, 30 days. There's unfortunately nothing that can be done about it, because they just continue to get.
And what are the containers sitting on?
Oh, those chassis that we just talked about. So, we take our trips to LA and we hear about chassis shortages, and next thing you know is you drive by a yard and all you see are containers on chassis sitting there empty.
Yes.
Looking for appointments to go home.
Yes.
And they can't get anything to go home, and you're like, there's not a chassis shortage. They're all right there with empty containers on it that we can't get back.
Exactly.
But to your point with the data sharing between terminals and steamship lines, in today's day and age, the fact that we don't have more data sharing is really, really strange to me. But
I know
it's
interesting.
like everyone's working against each other, but we do at the end of the day have one common goal, but no one wants to work together to get to that common goal.
And what I always wondered, if there's anybody that knows, please tell me. I'm not the infinite. I'm not the infinite wizard of knowledge, but what prevents the steamship lines from sharing that information to the trucking community? I wonder what is the holdup there. Like, why does it take so long for a steamship line to say, hey, look, you can return empties here, you can return empties there? If we got that information beforehand, that would allow us kind of to plan the driver routes much easier.
Oh yeah.
And pickup appointments. Where we've struggled with pickup appointments is especially on the congestion end. Where we could have, and this is something that I don't think maybe, I know I didn't have in mind. Let's say we have a delivery at 1 p.m. at a consignee, and I'm planning for that driver to be unloaded in 1 to 2 hours. And even the consignee says I'm going to be unloaded in 1 to 2 hours. So I'm planning for that driver to get unloaded in 1 to 2 hours, and then I've got a port appointment for 4:30 to 5:30. Well, the driver takes longer to unload, and now I miss my pickup appointment. So now I've got to reschedule that pickup appointment and try to get that driver in there. And I know the port, what truckers are trying to do, and I don't think we've been guilty of this, is they just reserve a whole slew of appointments so that it's like you've got your blindfold on and you're just shooting. You're like, oh, I'm going to make one of these appointments, right?
That's all you can do today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfortunate, but that's what the current state that we live in right now. Okay, so we talked chassis.
On to the next.
We talked terminal appointments, pickups, deliveries.
Moving on.
And here we go on to the newest thing that came out this week was the UP doesn't want your freight on their trains unless you're willing to pay an extra $5,000 or so.
Money, money, money.
Money, money, money. So they're basically overloaded with capacity. They're taking care of their premier clients, which is obviously what they have to do.
Yeah. And
then the small, medium shippers are getting hit with almost a $5,000 surcharge to ride on the UP. What that's doing, $5,000 on top
I
of
wonder
what
what the cutoff is, and it's not a number that I know,
Yeah.
but I think that the contract, it must be X amount of containers, obviously, you have to ship on the rail in order to disqualify yourself from not having to pay that surcharge.
We talk so much about truckloads because that's what we do here at FordX in addition to your drayage and your transloading.
Mm-hmm.
But now everyone that would like their cargo on the rails because it's more cost effective. Now
Conventionally, right?
Yeah.
Conventionally it is, the rails. Easy as she goes in terms of transit, but it's more cost effective.
Now your truckloads on some of your key lanes, your Atlantas, your Dallases, Chicago's, all the Midwest. Now they look way more advantageous to put that cargo in a truck.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of cost comparison.
Cost comparison, yes. Speed of getting your product way faster.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, the truckers out there have the advantage of getting cargo off of the rail and onto their trucks. What has that done the last 4 or 5 months for us and our clients? Very high increases in pricing.
Yep.
Capacity hasn't really been an issue and is getting better, but it's only getting better because folks are positioning their trucks there because they can name their price to go out.
Correct.
We're seeing $3, $4 per mile out of LA depending on where you're going nowadays.
Yep.
It's out of control. When I say the wild, wild west, that's what it's turned into. So now you can't get your freight on the train. If you can, you got to pay a surcharge.
Yep.
So you're resorted to putting it over the road, which is great because you'll get it really, really fast, which is bad because it costs a lot of money, but now so do the trains.
Yeah. APL, Matson, Zim,
and now CMA.
CMA jumped in the mix.
CMA is in the fray, and APL has brought in another fast boat program coming out of Vietnam. So now we've got APL out of Vietnam, we got CMA, we got Matson, we got Zim, all running fast boat programs. All bringing their cargo in very quick. Folks bring it in quick, they don't want the train anyway, they want our transload service and expedited team trucking. It's great for all parties, but again, when you're dealing with chassis shortages,
you want to know something great about the fast boat programs?
What do you got?
Containers come in wheeled. Appointment exempt, go in there, pick the sucker up. Normally we will have the over-the-road truck waiting, so we position that container right next to the over-the-road truck. We're quick in and out. We're tracking that thing all the way to the consignee. So,
so the fast boats
fast boat program, that's
cargo
very good.
in hot and heavy.
Yep.
Leading to all transloaded cargo.
Yep.
Because you're not coming in on a fast boat and going on a train anyways.
Very
so
good.
You're paying the extra on the fast boat. You're paying the extra on the
truck.
inland,
Yep.
and you're getting it there faster. All these types of things are just adding to that truckload cost. The truckload capacity in LA is getting better. It was bad for a couple months. It's getting better. The only reason it's getting better is because the truck drivers are realizing
there's money to be made.
We can make a lot of money if we send all of our capacity to LA.
Yeah.
So now at least we've got capacity in LA, but there's just so much volume that it doesn't reflect in your rate.
The phrase now is the import surge, and they believe it's forecasting to continue through the end of September into October. So the peak season is going to be peak season. So trucking, the rates are going to continue, we foresee continuing them to increase, even though, as you mentioned, capacity is going to increase, rates are going to increase, and it really is the opposite of a shipper's time. It is not a shipper's world right now.
It is not, because not only are the rates increasing, the rates are increasing hourly, daily, weekly. Clients look at us when I say, here's your rate, LA to Chicago.
It's good for 10 minutes.
It's good for 10 minutes. Call me tomorrow and I'll have a new rate for you.
Yeah.
It's not sarcasm. It's just the way the world is working right now in the truckload outbound market from LA. Only market in the world that I've ever seen like this in my time. But here we are. That's the reality of it. So we're able to get capacity. You're paying a lot, but based on what I'm seeing from the UP, you're paying about rail pricing or maybe a little bit less.
I tell you, that's why we have loved our East Coast imports, even though I believe, and again, don't quote me on the numbers, but I believe the percentage is something like a 33% increase from, I'll just go very broad, the beginning of COVID to now up in Los Angeles, Long Beach ports. And then we've seen a decrease in places like New York, New Jersey, which is obviously the largest port complex on the East Coast. And then even Savannah, the fourth largest port in the United States, second largest on the East Coast, that seen a decrease in overall inbound cargo volume. So LA has really been getting the brunt, the brunt of this import surge. And we really haven't had trucking capacity. We really haven't had driver capacity issues or even these volatile rate spikes on the East Coast. So import cargo on the East Coast, please bring it to us. We'd be happy to help.
Yes, exactly. So, Adam, I appreciate you taking time out of your day
to talk about you for having me.
All the wonderful world of LA and what's going on and what we kind of forecast down the road. So thank you for tuning in for the PortX monthly market update. Tune back in next month. First week of the month, we will be doing this. So have a good day.